we always go back to the books as our main source. We also knew, though, that Blood of Elves, which season 2 covers, was going to be a particularly difficult book to adapt. So we knew that we would have to inject some new stories in there. We always try to make sure that our stories match the tone that Sapkowski intended, though. That's our most important thing. And that's something that he asked me to do at the very beginning, which is to represent the spirit of the work more than the actual page-to-page itself.
Since the beginning of this production of The Witcher on Netflix, showrunner Lauren Hissrich's remarks on the source material and being faithful has been a little bit everywhere. As you saw in that clip, it came just a couple of years ago, but she keeps making these remarks about only keeping to the tone and spirit of the books, and something that she has not been saying recently, and something that she didn't say years back. Actually, before season 1, this is a viral post that went on the Witcher subreddit. Will I move through the books and start changing people's cultural heritage or ethnic makeup or gender because I'm feeling really liberal that day? No. That's ridiculous and contrary to what any writers would do because we're storytellers. Story comes first. Clearly not. And then before season 2, talking to IGN, Lauren Hissrich said of the 7-season plan, it would be a straight translation of the books. I think there's just so much material that I don't feel the need to start inventing my own to keep it going, which is completely wrong, especially because during the promotional tour of season 2, she even admitted that she needed to make different stories because the book, just in her own words, didn't have enough action going on. So instead of keeping to Sapkowski's vision and his books and his writing, they decided to invent a new villain with Voleth Mare. And then they also did nonsensical decisions with the main actors, such as Yen almost killing Ciri. It truly is baffling the direction that this show has gone and how far it has steered away from the source material. Then there's before season 3, which is some remarks that she just made recently in which she said that Henry Cavill will be getting the most heroic send-off, and the new season also happens to be the closest thing that we've done as a one-to-one adaptation of the books, which is just damage control. That's the best way to put it, because Blood Origin right now is getting destroyed, not just by fans but critics alike. This is something that we've talked about for the last couple of weeks, and it's just not surprising where The Witcher on Netflix currently stands, which is at its lowest point, and I honestly do not think that it will survive this drastic downfall that it has suffered. It didn't start with Henry Cavill leaving. This is something that has been going on for the last couple of years. And the future of The Witcher just doesn't seem promising either. I remember that one of the big controversial things that we learned about last year was that there was going to be a family-friendly Witcher project coming, and I have zero faith that that's going to be done any bit of justice, especially after Blood Origin, which just spit on all of the source material and confirmed many of our suspicions. In particular, the belief that Netflix and their writers think that they can do better than the source material, think they can do better than Andrzej Sapkowski and his work that he made all those years ago. And look, a talented team such as Projekt Red have proven that yes, you can adapt the source material, do different things with it, and it can work extremely well. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is one of the best video games of all time, and a lot of the praise is for the narrative, and that's because Projekt Red are talented and they actually care for this franchise. They love this material. Netflix, the writers, they do not. And these individuals aren't exactly very talented. If you look to the works, I believe the showrunner for Blood Origin, his biggest writing credit was for Iron Fist, a notorious, horrible Marvel TV show. Currently on Rotten Tomatoes, The Witcher Blood Origin has a review score of 33% out of 100 based off of 27 critic review scores, and an audience score of 10 out of 100 with over 3,700 user ratings. Some of the critic reviews, such as this coming from IndieWire, the derivative origin story still misses its unborn monster hunter, as a simple story about the power of simple stories fails to conjure any power of its own. And then we have one from Variety saying Blood Origin is to The Witcher television show as a slapdash downloadable expansion pack would be to the massively popular Witcher video games, only completists need apply. Hollywood Reporter says, to quote one of the characters, "It's been done to death," and that's pretty much the sentiment of all of these reviews. But to the audience, we have a lot more criticism. One saying, going to go play The Witcher 3 to burn this out of my mind. Don't watch if you are a big fan of the book and the game. You'll be completely disappointed. Bad writing and poor performances. The show has nothing going for it. The writing, acting, and everything else is just bad. Where is The Witcher? Let me tell you, he ain't here. Set aside the source material problem, the film itself, or TV show, still is a big failure. There is no consistency at all. The plot is shallow and the characters forgettable and disposable. The script and dialogue feel that they have been written by a 12-year-old kid who just discovered the word fuck. You made the right choice, Henry Cavill. And that is the widespread opinion on The Witcher Blood Origin. I myself did watch this absolute travesty of television, 4 hours of it, and it's everything I expected it to be. I mean that quite literally, as Netflix's own cast were asked to give fans reasons to watch the show, and not one of them remarked on the quality of the writing, the story, or even the direction. Instead, they focused on the diversity and inclusivity of the show, which ends up being completely pointless, forgettable, and a boring generic fantasy show which has the Witcher name slapped onto it. Blood Origin has a lot of problems, from below average CGI and sets to a boring human-like elven world. This actually is one of my biggest gripes with this adaptation, as in the books and games the elves have such rich lore, history, and appearance, but with this show it almost seems like Netflix and Lauren Hisrich went shopping at Dollar General for the design and lore of the elves. The only distinguishable feature from humans that elves have is pointy fucking ears. The laziness here is quite frankly astonishing. Even worse, the elven society and culture is literally just the human world. There is no noticeable differences, but thank God the elves are diverse and all of the featured cultures and races are just everywhere. Definitely makes for great TV. Regardless, the show follows 3 main elves. One is Fjall, a famous warrior from Dog Clan. It's made up Netflix nonsense. He's banished very early on because he slept with the princess but believes he deserves death for that deed. I shit you not, 10 minutes later in the episode, after Fjall has traveled to the middle of nowhere, someone a part of Dog Clan somehow tracks him down and says that they want him back. Then there is Elle, who is from Raven Clan, a famous warrior as well, and now a bard, I guess, who goes around giving people hope with her songs. Then there is Michelle Yeoh, who is the last warrior of Ghost Tribe, and truthfully Michelle Yeoh is she's just here. She does a few things and says a few things, but none of it at all really matters. Anyway, these 3 warriors, which eventually adds a few others, they have like a 7 samurai team up to fight the princess Fjall was banging at the beginning. The elves have somehow had a 1,000-year war amongst each other, and now finally all of the leaders agreed to come together and draft peace through marriage, which includes the princess being betrothed to a king. Some don't like that. That includes the mage Lenny Henry. We're just gonna call him how it is because terrible casting. There's Eridan and the princess, who decides to perform a coup by just killing everyone. One CGI monster that Lenny Henry summons later, everyone is dead. That includes all of Dog Clan, Raven Clan, and the others. The princess is now queen, with Lenny Henry really pulling the strings from behind. And the next order of business is sending assassins to kill the remaining notable members of the clans, which includes Fjall and Elle. One lame-ass journey later, they collect a few other warriors, again 7 samurai style, and then attack the capital city of Zentria with the help and support of the people. To defeat Lenny Henry's CGI monster, an elf, yes, an elf becomes the first Witcher, turning into this ugly, cheap Halloween Michelin Man outfit, and he defeats the CGI monster, but his transformation causes him to go pretty much feral, so he has to be put down. The princess is easily killed by Elle, who is now carrying Fjall's child because there was that whole romance arc within these 4 hours of terrible television. Lenny Henry, who was trying to, I guess, take over the elven world and become super powerful via chaos magic, is easily killed too, but not before the stupid monolith rock magic thing is shattered and the conjunction of the spears occurs, in which multiple dimensions converge at the same point in space and time, pulling creatures from one world into another. As a result, humans and monsters come to the continent that the elves reside in. Cool, mysterious event in the books. In the show, it's laughable nonsense. We see an ending scene in which an elf freaks out at when they first see a human because they have non-pointy ears, like, I guess. It's genuinely difficult to take any of this seriously and not laugh, but that's pretty much the show. That's it. That's Blood Origin. Oh, and you also can't forget, but Avallac'h is played by Twink, and Aridin gets yeeted into another realm after he tries betraying Lenny Henry. Obviously, I could explain all of this in much better detail, but it doesn't deserve it. This is trashy made-up fan fiction, with almost everything here coming from the uninspired minds of Netflix's writers rather than Andrzej Sapkowski's books. And in the eyes of Lauren Hissrich, that's super A-okay because she believes they are maintaining the tone of the books. I remember years ago, Sapkowski used to be extremely angry that people would think that the Witcher games were a spiritual successor to his actual books, and he was also upset that a lot of people viewed the games better than the books. He doesn't care about this production because it makes his books look 1,000 times better. He's probably laughing with the paychecks that he's getting from Netflix. But we'll of course see Avallac'h and Aridin in future seasons of the main show, but just play The Witcher 3 instead, please. I beg you. And actually, if you haven't even watched Blood Origin yet, seen these characters, which were phenomenal in the games, take the advice of a CD Projekt Red developer who watched Blood Origin, well, at least the first episode. Please don't. Blood Origin's first scene and dialogue creates a fantastic comparison to Saints Row the remake. Both these abominations share a lot in common, from the lackluster performances, cringe dialogue, generic storyline, and overall feeling of cheapness. The Witcher deserves better. Blood Origin just further exemplifies why Henry Cavill gave up on this franchise. The bizarre rumors from supposed staff members of him being toxic and difficult to work with make a lot more sense now because even these rumors aside, we know that there have been creative differences in the past between Cavill and the writers. Lauren Hissrich and Henry Cavill admitted as much, and Redanian Intelligence, a notable source in everything regarding The Witcher, confirmed this was a specific reason why Cavill was actually considering leaving after season 2. Cavill wanted something faithful and he didn't get it. He wanted to do fans right, but it looks like he was all alone with that goal. Even the man who first made Geralt of Rivia famous through video games stated his own disappointment with the direction that the show has taken, recently discussing Henry Cavill's departure and the state of the show.
The chat says that he's leaving because he doesn't agree with the storylines that the writers have been developing. And if that's the case, I can completely understand that because Henry is such a huge fan of the games and the books. And the writers on the Netflix series have chosen, for whatever reason they did so, to deviate quite severely from the books and the games. Whether that's good or not, it's down to what you like, you know. I personally don't understand the choice, but there you go. I think that's why Henry's leaving.
In my last video, we talked about Henry Cavill and the campaign that has been launched against him, in which it seems like some that were involved in the production of The Witcher have tried to make it out to be that Henry Cavill was the problem. He was the reason why the show wasn't good. We saw various actresses and other individuals on Twitter saying that Henry Cavill was misogynistic, he was red-pilled, his video game obsession is why The Witcher on Netflix has suffered, which is truly baffling stuff. I did see a couple comments that were on my actual video go viral on Twitter, in which it looks like some people may or may not have been a part of the production, defended Cavill. We had one comment saying, "I'm friends with some of the staff of The Witcher show. A lot of them feel the same way as Cavill, but the writers are horribly toxic." There was also another comment which says, "I've been on set with Henry, can confirm he is nothing but the gracious, patient, kind, and passionate guy you see in interviews." And those remarks are nothing new. That's what Henry Cavill has garnered for the last couple of decades that he's been in Hollywood. He is a stand-up nice guy who just wants to be faithful to the source material. It really isn't that difficult. So this new angle coming out that he's toxic, he's a problem, never made any sense at all. But it is an interesting attempt that, for some reason, those who live on Twitter seem to be using as ammunition against Henry Cavill, and in turn defending the showrunners and writers of Netflix. But over the course of the last week, all over social media, it has become quite clear that the reception that Blood Origin has earned, and that is that it was a massive misstep made by Netflix. Other productions such as HBO's Game of Thrones, they've thrown out pilots that went poorly. They spent a ton of money, it didn't work out, and they threw it in the bin. But instead, Netflix here, They had to have known that they had a giant turd on hand, but they went forward with it and, well, may have destroyed the franchise. Obviously, Cavill's departure kind of already did that, but this might have been the final nail in the coffin. But that has not stopped certain websites from making some very interesting points. The Gamer, The Witcher Blood Origin has an audience score of only 8%, but many of these reviews perpetuate that type of thing, and ableist talking points. And if you actually looked at the reviews, there may be one of those out of 50, every 50. So I just don't understand this narrative that games media and just media in general are trying to latch onto. We also had Metro with a similar thing. The Witcher Blood Origin fans baffled by record-breaking low audience score for Netflix series. And then we have those who are chronically online on Twitter saying, I'm genuinely enjoying Blood Origin. Michelle Yu is so phenomenal. Of course I went on here to see what other people are saying, and it's just that type of review bombing. I hate it here. I read 30 one-star reviews of The Witcher Blood Origin and skimmed more. They're mostly copy-pasted the same. So basically that type of person didn't like it. More reasons to watch it. Was it perfect? No. Was it fun? F yeah. But largely, if you actually see those who are committed to The Witcher, those who know about the source material, and those who actually maybe care a little bit more about their fantasy type shows, it's pretty much the same reaction we're all getting around, and it's that people are upset that Netflix produced this. There's many upset that, let's just say, the elves don't really look like elves, they look like humans. Somebody saying, look how they massacred my boy, the anime, the Netflix adaptation. Netflix writers, when they asked them where they found their lore, my source is that I made it the F up. And yeah, a lot of memes with this. And then this was one of the most top votes on the Witcher subreddit. No, fans are just toxic gamers. We don't do that for them. Netflix super production for big money. Random Polish fanfiction for less than $4. And yeah, the costume design for this spinoff is truly astonishing stuff. But even on Netflix, just a couple of days after The Witcher Blood Origin premiered, it is already about to exit the top 5 shows in the US, which, in my opinion, that's not a good sign to the overall viewership for this. Obviously, I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this just because, hey, it's Witcher related, but how many? It's unclear, but it doesn't seem all that great. Now, there has been a lot of conversation about how does Andrzej Sapkowski feel about all of this, and I think the answer is quite clear. He's getting his money and he doesn't really care. But a couple of weeks ago, Lauren Hisrich did get a question about this. Somebody saying, I just don't understand. A lot of us got into the show because of Henry. He's the living and breathing embodiment of Geralt. Even the book author said so. So why should we even care about this show going forward? It just reeks of incompetence and arrogance. A great point. And Hisrich said the author of the book, a friend of mine, also said, and I quote, I congratulate Lauren and her team on their excellent work. Adapting my books is not an easy task. I watched with great joy and I hope for an even more epic season 3. And many Witcher fans brought up the fact that Sapkowski also did some recent interviews which made clear he doesn't care about this show at all. He also probably only thinks again that his books are the true material of The Witcher, and he probably views this TV show as fan fiction just like he views the games. He said this to IO9 recently. They asked him, what do you think translated best to screen in the show adaptation? Sapkowski, my name appears in the credits. I cannot praise the show. It would not be decent. IO9 then asks, what do you feel did not successfully translate to screen in the show adaptation? Sapkowski, I would have to be an idiot to say my name appears in the credits. It's quite clear Sapkowski doesn't care about this. I would actually be surprised if he's even watching. And then IO9 also asks, what are you most looking forward to with the future of The Witcher show, which has already been renewed for season 2? Allow me to quote Joe Abercrombie, the author whose book are very much to my liking. Life is basically effing that. Best to keep your expectations low. Maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised. Like I said, Sapkowski just doesn't care. He was also asked in this interview, how involved were you in the production process? And Sapkowski admitted, not very much, on my own request. I do not like working too hard or too long. By the way, I do not like working at all. So that is Sapkowski. That's why Lauren Hisrich using his remarks that he's heavily involved or really likes what they're doing, I don't believe it for a second. I don't think any Witcher fans believe it either. Now, we did see some of the Blood Origin cast actually defending the recasting of Henry Cavill. Minnie Driver, who plays a mysterious elf in the show, she said, we come from this tradition of Doctor Who where the Doctor regenerates. I think we need to look at it far more like it's amazing. It's an amazing person. It's an amazing character, and we should have different people playing it. That was her feeling on Geralt of Rivia being passed on from Henry Cavill to Liam Hemsworth, and I just feel it's like an absurd absurd point. As far as I understand, Doctor Who, every time they regenerate, has a new storyline and all. It makes sense with the actual lore of that universe that was set up. In terms of The Witcher on Netflix, we're halfway into a book adaptation, and we're changing the main actor, the actor that made this franchise, that brought so many eyes to it. The comparison doesn't work out at all, in my opinion. Now, we did also see some outlets such as Polygon baffled by some of the lore decisions that Netflix chose to make, which just shows anybody who has actually read the source material of The Witcher, it's quite clear they're very unhappy with the direction that Netflix has taken. As Polygon writes, based on what we knew of The Witcher's creation and origins, they were distinctly and exclusively human order. The mutated hunters provided a way for their expanding world of humans to protect themselves in their small villages and settlements in the newly conjoined worlds. Just as importantly, the creation was a long and arduous process of the desperate humans to find some way to protect themselves from the monsters that loomed in the dark. These early human witchers were tragic figures, partially monsters themselves, who were hated by humans and often lacked the control of their own fury necessary to safely live among them. That would have been a great adaptation to see on screen, but we didn't get that. This makes the circumstances the first Witcher's creation and blood origin disappointing, to say the least. Rather than an arduous new process or the dangerous combination of several different magics in a desperate attempt to protect people living in fear of monsters, it simply feels like the character throws together a well-known series of herbs and roots to make her special superhero monster killer serum. And if we're to believe that this is just the first seed of the Witcher idea that humans would later pick up, then blood origin never makes the difference clear. The first Witcher being an elf and the whole thing being an elvish creation certainly feels like it should say something new and important about the world of Netflix's Witcher universe, but it doesn't. Anyway, as everything currently stands, one thing has become quite clear these last couple of weeks, and it's that showrunner Lauren Hisrich needs to go. It's time for her to be fired, and really this show, if Netflix is serious about making this into one of their staple franchises, it probably should be rebooted, and they should find some talented, passionate Slavic writers. Those are the people that should have been involved from the get-go. CD Projekt Red's writers, they made this franchise years ago. Those are the people that maybe Netflix should have hired for this. I don't know why they chose Lauren Hisrich. Maybe it was because of her history working on The West Wing, but it was the wrong choice. And now I think everything needs to be rebooted, started from the beginning, because the current direction that this show, the main show, is taking, it's probably going to lead to a cancellation in a season or two. But certainly we will see and discuss season 3 when it does come about, or when we actually see a trailer for it. It'll be our last time with Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia. I'll be tuning in myself, but I also just don't really have any faith that this season's going to produce anything worthwhile because of the fact that the writers and the showrunners, everything is still the same, which is why season 4, that'll be the point where I think a lot of people leave the show finally and move on. But what do you make of all of this? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.